This is my favorite part of our album overviews. I can't wait to hear your answer to.
I'm very excited that I asked this first so that you have to answer.
Hello and welcome to Therate. We are not therapy, but we are here for some super fun conversation about Taylor Swift's album, Midnights. I'm so excited. Katie is going to start us off with a fun fact, and we have a couple of fun facts that we want to share about this album just to kind of get our juices flowing.
Yeah, so my name is Katie, and I'll be talking a little bit about when Midnights was announced. It was a surprise announcement that happened in 2022 at the VMA Awards. On TikTok, there was a like folklore Evermore outfit, and then it kind of transitioned to like a really shiny, more Midnights themed outfit. She was at the VMAs for the specific award for the All Too Well short film, which is a short film that she directed about a song on her album Red that was a fan favorite, told a really amazing story. And it was really exciting when that song and that short film got recognition.
Yeah, and she also had a really fun way to announce the songs that were going to be on the album called Midnight's Mayhem with Me. So she did these TikTok videos where she would have a bingo spinner and would choose the number of the song to kind of announce. And then she would have this red phone where she would kind of answer what that song name was. And there is a mystery to be solved out there, Swifties, because there are two songs that she used with the phone upside down, and we have yet to know why she did that. I think maybe she was just trolling us, trying to get us to clown a little bit. But yeah, to be determined still.
Yeah. Do you want to name those two songs, Ashley?
I feel weird swearing in public, so if you want to, feel free.
So the songs were Vigilante Shit and Antihero.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'm kind of with you, Ashley. I feel like maybe we were just being trolled and she was just doing that to like mess with our heads. Both of those songs were on the set list for the Eras tour, which I'm convinced she would have known that information probably around that time, with her pre-planning. But that's not the only songs from Midnights that were on the set list for the Eras tour. So I honestly have no idea why. I think she was probably just messing with people for fun.
I think so.
So a cultural moment to talk about. Taylor's album cover was made available to create with your own picture. So that was really fun. So congressmen actually used this as a way to connect with Swifties. But they had no idea that when the album came out, she was going to have the line, "Did you hear my covert narcissism? I disguise as altruism, like some kind of congressman, tale as old as time." So just so ironic and funny that like this was used by congressmen and then it literally turned into a roast. Like, that's just like peak comedy.
It is. It is. There's no planning could have happened for that. It was just perfect. Um, on release night, which was October 21, 2022, Taylor said there's a special surprise coming at 3 a.m. Katie, did you wake up at 3 a.m. for this?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay, I did.
I remember.
So I had no idea what this was going to be, but I was so excited. My husband was making fun of me. I had an alarm set. I went to the bathroom to like get out of like our room so that it wouldn't disturb him. And I like remember refreshing. And I had mixed emotions when I found out that there were seven additional songs. Of course, I will take all of the Taylor songs that I can get. But I had pre-ordered the album and that album did not have those additional songs. So I was like, oh, I'm like both excited for this and a little bit sad. But super incredible that she had seven extra tracks she was willing to share with us. And then an additional edition came out during the Eras tour, which she called Till Dawn. And it includes songs Hits Different and You're Losing Me.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep. I do remember when that chaotic 3 a.m. surprise happened, and I debated it very shortly and then was like, no, my sleep. It can wait a few more hours until I wake up. But
Totally
it
fair.
yeah, you were not alone. I think a lot of people who did the pre-orders felt pretty salty that they didn't get the additional 7 songs simply because they pre-ordered the album. So I think some people have walked away from that experience. And this the same thing happened with TTPD, where people are like, I'm just gonna wait like a month until all of the extra bonus tracks get released, and then I'm gonna make a purchase.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. So the singles from the album were the songs Antihero, Lavender Haze, and Bejeweled.
Yeah. And Katie, I apologize. This was a list that I came up with, but I'm pretty sure Karma was also a single now that I'm thinking about it
Oh,
because she came
yeah,
up with that mix with Ice Spice.
you're right. It was. Yep.
So, yeah, I set you up for
So,
failure on that one. Sorry.
all those forgiven.
And our last fact that we have, Midnight's was nominated for 18 awards and won 14, including the Grammys Album of the Year and Best Pop Vocal Album. So I was so excited for this album, and it's one of my all-time favorites, so I cannot wait to get into it. Would you like to share your first, like, general impressions of this one?
I absolutely would. And just shout out Ashley, thank you for coming up with all those facts and figures. So for our listeners, Ashley was the one that did all the research for that. So thank her for all of the fun facts she put together. So general impressions for the album. Um, this is an album of reflection on a lot of things in Taylor's life. It's a very well constructed album that explores feelings, experiences around vulnerable, sort of like an unfiltered reflection. Uh, when I first heard the album, just like musically, I didn't feel like it had a lot of musical variability and her other albums did. Like if you listen to Red or Reputation, like there's just such a range of like hardcore bangers to like really soft, gentle songs. And I didn't feel like Midnight's had that. The more I've listened to the album, I've definitely changed and given more credit. Like I think there is more music variability than I first thought. But I think that in comparison to past albums, I think I would still stick by that stance. Just not as much as I first thought, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So, what about you? What are your general impressions, Ashley?
I love this album. I love it. Um, I really enjoy her pop albums, but this one feels special to me. And I think part of the reason it might feel special is because it came out while I was doing my counseling internship. So I would use this album as like my go-to album for notes. And now it's the only music that, like, if I really need to focus in on notes, I have to listen to Midnight's. Just like I've trained my
Right.
brain to the point where like it's if Midnight is playing, it's time to do notes because of my internship. So I think it's nostalgic for that. And it's nostalgic because you and I went camping right after this released and we listened to the album the whole time and it was so much fun and such a good like bonding moment for us. So
It absolutely was. That's so true. I remember that.
there's so much nostalgia, even though it wasn't that long ago. Um, and I think like I'm technically an only child. My family is kind of like complicated, but technically I'm an only child and um the song You're on Your Own Kid like
Mhm.
just really speaks to me in that. So I there's like a lot of songs that I love on this album for a lot of different reasons, but that one especially I'm like, oh, I love it so much. So I do like that it's a little bit more pop focused. It was hard for me to transition from TTPD to Midnights because we just wrapped up our TTPD season, if you want to call it that. Um, and I like she colors these albums so well because like it feels gray when you're talking about TTPD.
Yes.
And Midnight's feels like sparkles, like,
Mhm.
but like deep, the deep
Deep
blue with
midnight blue.
sparkles.
Yes, it does.
It
Yes.
feels like that, if that makes any sense. So,
Yes.
um, yeah, anyway, those are my impressions. And I'm thinking about also the 3 a.m. thing and just reflecting that like I stayed up until midnight to listen to that album and then I woke up I like went to bed after listening it through. So I probably went to bed like around 1
Hmm.
and then woke up again at 3. So if that doesn't show dedication, I don't know what will.
Honestly, it does. So much dedication. I have a lot of respect for the fact that you did that, honestly.
I don't know if I could do it again. I think I've aged too far now.
In just a few years, you've aged so much. And if that doesn't speak about the transition from going from like your counseling internship to like being like a like licensed therapist, like I don't know what does.
That's so
It
true.
ages you.
It does. So, do you want to talk about the themes that you saw in this album?
Yeah, for sure, love, revenge, heartbreak, growing up, transition, regret, grief, abuse, self-image, and self-loathing.
Yes, to all of those. Just
What
got deeper and deeper.
I know, right? Like as I was like writing out my list, I was like, this is like there's a progression here. But I mean like it I feel like that's even follows the progression of the actual album itself too. Um like the songs feel like they get there's a more of a maturity as even the album continues. So from it where it starts at Lavender Haze and where it ends, to You're Losing Me. So
Oh, I never thought about that. Yeah, Lavender Haze is a very different song from You're Losing Me.
like those that's like the bookmark, right? Like where like
That's so
the
true.
night starts and where the night ends, like in a new day.
Oof. Yeah.
Like, yeah, quite a progression. Um,
Yeah.
wow, actually I didn't realize that either. I like hear myself process that. I'm like, wait, is Midnight's the
I
bookends of
know.
the relationship?
Okay. Wait,
And
say that.
is Midnight's the bookends to her relationship with Joe?
That's what I'm thinking because we start out with Lavender Haze, which is like about how she doesn't need to get married, and then You're Losing Me literally says, I wouldn't marry me either.
Oh my God, chills. I got chills. I get tingles.
Taylor.
Taylor!
Okay.
Whoa.
Oh,
What
that
are the
makes me really
themes that
sad.
it is sad? What are the themes that you noticed? Like, were there any similar or different?
Yes, I did not have as long of a list as you did. Um, that like had me in my feels already. But yeah, I had like trauma, I think is a big one. So
Mhm.
we see that with Would Have, Could Have, Should Have, and Bigger Than the Whole Sky. I feel, I mean, those are just two songs, but yeah, pretty intense. Sass and Self-Esteem with Bejeweled, the Vigilante one, and Karma. Um, Confusion, decision making like Labyrinth and Lavender Haze, nostalgia with Maroon, some insecurity, I think, with Antihero and You're on Your Own Kid.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I cannot wait to get into this one. What do you think makes this album relatable?
Oh, the themes are so relatable. I think it's incredibly relatable that she has an entire song devoted to a revenge fantasy. And if you don't have like a quote unquote enemy in your life, then you've probably had a conflict that you've like rehearsed in your head that like if I like had a chance, here's what I would say or do, or like we can like reenact conflicts in our head. So I think that's like incredibly relatable that she like wrote a whole song about that. Um, I think that the song Bejeweled is a really relatable one. Like this was like a girls song. Like it's such a hype song. It's like when you're doubting yourself and you realize you've been taken for granted or you've taken yourself for granted and you're still worthwhile, you've still got it. And somebody like it's just like your girlfriend in the background going like, "You're the best. You got this." Like, "You're amazing." Like just know your worth. Like it feels like that kind of energy, which I love the girls energy. So well, those are some things I think that make the album relatable to me. And I could keep going, but those are just two that like stood out to me. What about you, Ashley?
Yeah, yeah. You saying that about Bejeweled made me think of something that happened in high school. Can I share?
Oh, obviously.
I won't go into a lot of detail, but I went through a breakup in high school and it's high school, so it's like, oh, very dramatic, you know. And my mom is like the sweetest human, and she was like, you know what? Here's like, I don't remember how much, probably like 20 bucks. She was like, here's 20 bucks, go to Target, you get yourself a breakup outfit and you wear that. And I was like, will do. So I went to Target by myself. I just had a little Target run by myself and got like leggings and a sweatshirt, which is like my what's the word? Uniform. It's like my uniform. Like and I still have that sweatshirt. And it just makes me think of that. It's very
I
different
love that.
from like a sparkly outfit like Bejeweled, but what you said made me think of it.
Yeah. But it's just that energy, right? Go get something that like is gonna meet you where you're at.
Yes.
Like, I love that your mom did that. Shout out to Ashley's mom. You're incredible. You're the best.
So I think you're right. Like it does have a lot of different topics on this album that are very relatable. It's also just a fun listen for me. Like there's so many different sounds and there's a podcast that I listen to called Every Single Album by The Ringer. And they've listened to like every Taylor Swift album, kind of given their thoughts on it. So shout out every single album. But they call that deeper voice that she does on this album Bev.
That's so funny, Bev.
It makes me
That
laugh
is
every time. But we haven't heard Bev until this album. So welcome to the world, Bev. And then she's also vulnerable and honest in ways that I don't think she is in other albums before this. I would say she probably met that level in TTPD. But I mean, with Antihero and You're on Your Own Kid, I think those are some of the most like introspective or vulnerable pieces that she's done.
yeah, yeah. Her introspection on this album, I think, is uh I think like you said, it's up to this point, maybe the highest we've ever seen, and I think TTP matches it, but like they are kind of like it feels like this is like a significant evolution in her artistic journey, and in her relationship to like her public image. Feels like it has shifted. So um totally agree with that.
Yeah, and I think like without songs like Anti-Hero, would we get ones like But Daddy I Love Him from TTPD, you know, where
Yeah.
she's kind of like having this like
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
good midnight's walk so that TTP could run. Like, and she actually, I remember like, and she did these like kind of like these YouTube shorts and these like TikTok shorts where she would talk about, you know, a few of the songs, and Antihero was one that she's like, I don't think I've ever been quite this vulnerable with how I feel about my level of fame. And then I rewatched it recently and she was like, don't feel bad for me. Like, please, like, don't feel bad for me, but like not feeling like a person, you know? And it was just, again, a perspective when like, I have no real imagination for what it could be like to live life with that level of fame, and to hear her name that. And it was like, I feel like she put that into language, which it gave me a glimpse of like, oh, I could imagine that now. Oh, I can track with those feelings because that's not even in my world to imagine that level of recognition and circus chaos that accompanies every single public outing. So I feel like she bridged that quite tastefully. Like, I'm not looking for sympathy, and this is my lived experience, and there's hard parts to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's incredible that she can write a song like that that can still be relatable to people who are nowhere near as famous.
That's the skill, right? Like, that's always been her like gift of like, we are nowhere the same in life, and yet we have these shared experiences.
Mhm.
Um, and I think what's like really vulnerable about the song Antihero is that in particular, she's talking about her insecurities with like the way that I interpret it of like, what if the media is right? What if everyone is right? That like all the horrible things they get said about me, what if it's all true?
Hmm.
And because she comes out swinging so hard on her other albums, like against these like narratives, the fact that she would pause and reflect and like it's like, oh wow, like at night this actually does kind of get in her head a little bit. And that's just one interpretation that I've had for the song. And I just that kind of stuck with me of like, isn't that kind of true when things get said about us or things have been said about me? And I'm like, oh, that's not true. And then it's like, but what if it is? What if that is true? Like, where's the self-reflection piece? So we'll get into the song Antihero, so I won't say too much more about that. But
It reminds me of Who's Afraid of Little Old Me too. But like
yeah.
Anti-Hero is more of like a ironically sad version,
Mhm.
and Who's Afraid of Little Old Me is like the anger version of that same thought, it seems like.
Oh, yeah, kind of like sister songs, but like different. And sadness and anger so often pair together, like they're just two sides of the same coin. That's really insightful. And for our listeners who may not know, the song Who's Afraid of Little Old Me is from the Tortured Poets Department album, the TTPD that we've been referencing.
And we covered it if you want to look into that one too.
So please go back. Um, Ashleigh, what lyrics on this album described you?
This is my favorite part of our album overviews. I can't wait to hear your answer to.
I'm very excited that I asked this first so that you have to answer.
Okay, I have an explanation. I do not mean this.
Okay. When you were like when you lead with like, okay, I can explain.
I do not mean this romantically. Okay.
Okay.
Oh no, I'm falling in love again.
Okay. I understand the disclaimer now. I do want to know more.
Okay. I am the type of person that if I like something, I am all in. If it is Taylor Swift, I am listening to every single interview. I am doing a podcast about it. If it is my favorite baseball team, the Chicago Cubs, I am going to CubsCon. I am going to as many games as I can. If I can't go, I will be watching them. I will show you each player and tell you all about them. Like there, I just have like an immense amount of passion. If we're talking about how pretzel M&Ms are the best M&Ms, I will meet you there. If I'm talking about the movies Sandlot or Rookie of the Year, I will meet you there. Like it's just like the list goes on and on. So when I meet something new that I'm like, uh-oh, I can feel it. It's like, no, I'm not ready for another deep dive.
Like you're telling yourself, I'm not ready to handle this.
And neither are my friends.
That is so funny. What? Okay. I love that. Actually, that really is just so you. And I just love that part of you with my whole heart. Like you're all in.
Thank you. So, Katie, let me hear yours. I can't wait.
Weird but effing beautiful. Could not find like a not weird lyric on this album that felt like it described me. So I just thought that was really funny.
That is fantastic. Oh,
Um,
I love it.
and then my runner up was like Sexy Baby, obviously. So unironically, if I'm being serious, the lyric "Lost in the Labyrinth of My Mind," I really
Oh,
think that one describes me in the sense that I do get lost in my own thoughts. I do tend to overthink, so I really love the imagery of like being in a labyrinth and wandering around, going like, "How do I get out of this?" And for people who like know me, they just know that I can like kind of spin, and then I'm like, "I where am I again?" Somebody help. I got lost in my own head.
oh, I love all three.
The sexy baby was totally a joke. So was the weird Abby Beautiful also kind of not a joke. Like,
Oh, I love it. You are beautiful. And I love that you named that because I think you and I both tend to be just a tad anxious from time to time. And so that's a really good way to put like the overthinking that can happen, which has absolutely never happened about this podcast. We would never overthink.
No, no. We've never had to pull each other out of the other person's labyrinth of their mind before.
Definitely. Oh, so should we announce the songs that we're going to be going over?
Let's do it, please.
Do you want to go first?
Yes. So the songs that I selected are Antihero, You're on Your Own Kid, and The Great War. Um, and I just want to shout out because, like, Ashley, you had the same songs on your list. So we definitely had a lot of overlap here. So, like, they're my choices, but only because Ashley was like, you can have them, and like graciously chose different songs.
As long as we cover Antihero and You're on Your Own Kid, like I am happy. So I don't care who chooses it. But I'm so glad that somebody did. The songs that I chose were Hits Different, Sweet Nothing, and Labyrinth. So I am super excited to get into these songs. Anything else that you want to say about the album Midnights or any songs that we're not covering that you like want to give a shout out to, a go-to song from Midnights, anything else you want to say?
Ooh, yeah. Well, some shout out honorable mentions. Like, honestly, Karma, not covering it, but like such a good song. I think the song Would Have, Could Have, Should Have, and Bigger Than the Whole Sky. Those are definitely two heavier, like those are those trauma themes on the album that we, chose different songs, but those are really good honorable mentions, I think, because they're just very rich in their storytelling and definitely get us in our feels. And then You're Losing Me, which is on that Till Dawn edition. So that is one of Ashley's favorite sad songs.
It is. It's so good. It's so good. Um, yeah, and I want to say one more thing about You're on Your Own Kid. It was one of the most performed songs that Taylor did on the Eras tour, both on its own and like as a mashup. And so I just think that that says a lot too, that she chose that one so often. And it could have been for who knows how many different reasons, right? But I think it's just a really special song to her and to the fan base. So I wanted to give that one a special shout out
Yeah.
as well.
And if I can add to that, there was quite a bit of like surprise online when the set list, when we became aware of like what the regular set list was going to be for the Eras tour, that You're on Your Own Kid was not on the main set list. And so I think that may have influenced as well when she was like, oh, like you feel that way about this song? I do. And for those who don't know, there's a lyric in that song about make the friendship bracelets. The whole friendship bracelet frenzy and movement that happened from the Eras tour was literally all based on that one line in that one song on one album. Like, Taylor has never like posted about making friendship bracelets. Like, it's never been a thing. That all came from that song. So I think when you talk about the relationship, it's like, yeah, like fans deeply resonated with that song. There was kind of a lot of surprise, and then of course the friendship bracelet movement came from that, which I know Taylor like was openly talking about how like friendship bracelet, like that whole movement meant so much to her and really surprised her, and I think that it just brought her a lot of delight and joy.
Yeah, yeah, so, so special. Thanks for bringing that in. I forgot about that aspect. So, yeah, all right. Well, I think that covers Midnights. What do you think?
I think it does. Listeners, thanks so much for joining us today. We're really excited to launch into our next song, which will be Antihero. And check us out on Instagram, on YouTube, and then we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We look forward to hearing from you. If there's a song that we do not have on our list that you want us to cover, send us an email at veritypodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to get back with you and uh, cover that song.
All right, bye.